Welcome to Noah's Snark. I'm your host, Atheist Josephina, aka AJV. And the first thing I want to say is, I'm feeling a little testy today, snarkier than usual, because today I want to talk about low-level apologetics that are so bad, so simple-minded, atheists interested in actually thinking about God's existence should stop replying to because, as the saying goes, you can't reason someone out of a position they were never reasoned into to begin with, and you certainly can't reason with someone who makes really dumb arguments who refuse to think even slightly about what they're saying. Disclaimer here, I've made a bad argument or two in my time. I'm not saying any of my positions are 100% beyond reproach, and I'm open to criticism. But when your opponent can't be, when they can't be similarly open-minded, what am I supposed to do with that? Not bother engaging, I suppose. So here are some stupid and often bad faith arguments many believers use that are not worth responding to. This list is not exhaustive, so if you think of some arguments that should be added to this list, feel free to add them in the comments section or create your own list and post it, and please share it with me. Okay, enough preamble. Onward, Christian soldier, or some shit like that. Coming in at number 5 is going to be because the Bible says so. The simpleton believer seems to think because the Bible makes a claim, that claim is true, not realizing they're doing that because they presuppose the claim is true. They don't usually start with this notion that, well, maybe the story of Noah's Ark isn't true. Instead, if anything, they look for supporting evidence after accepting the story as true. They don't understand the Bible makes claims, but that it doesn't provide evidence in much the same way the Qu'ran makes claims but doesn't provide evidence. And of course, because we're dealing with simpletons, when you point this out, their immediate defense is, well, atheists believe the claims made in science books, not realizing there was evidence, that being science done, in support of the claims made in science books. Plus, most scientific or philosophical atheists realize it's a possibility the claims made in a science book could potentially be falsified, because that's how science fucking works. Religious claims don't work that way. Religious claims within a person's faith are almost always regarded as true, after which said believer accepts all confirming evidence, despite there being zero evidence for the occurrence of something like miracles, and they ignore anything that might potentially falsify their religious claims. The second a zealot appeals to their holy book, that person is not worth responding to. Does a Christian care what the Qu'ran says? Of course not. So why should I, as an atheist, or any other non-believer, care what the Bible says? Moving on to number 4, to quote Muslim content creator Lily J, how do you think the universe got here, stupid atheists? Basically an argument from design or a superficial meditation on a theistic belief that atheists think the universe came from nothing. I don't know how the universe got here. I don't know why there's something rather than nothing. Maybe it was many gods working together. I don't know, and neither does any believer. All they have is a presupposition. But any atheist who knows something about cosmology knows that quantum fields are considered eternal, even if their excitations of particles/energy are temporary. A statement that just went clear over the head of any theist who invokes the universe from nothing criticism. I might also add that theists should not be replied to when making this criticism when it's literally their own fucking position. According to them, their God made the universe out of nothing. Just some words, perhaps, which are not material. If I'm wrong and this is not the way in which God made the universe, okay, well, what materials did God use and where did he get them from? Now, number 3, straw manning atheism. It doesn't matter how many times you correct these idiots about what atheism is, they will still misrepresent what atheism is or the attributes of atheists, in any number of ways, and I will say right now, atheists do it to believers too. I, however, would never say all theists believe X, or I'll say when I'm making my YouTube videos or my TikTok videos, I'll say if a theist believes X, then I have this particular criticism to make. So it's important to steelman your opponent's position, otherwise you come off as a dick with a general lack of respect for people. And he says that, not remembering what he's going to title this podcast. Anyway, if a believer is going to say atheists worship Satan or worse, science, that's a joke by the way, or that atheists are mad at God, I don't think I'm going to make time anymore for such a stupid fucking person. That person is strawmanning non-believers for the sake of coming up with a gotcha, which is always nothing of the sort, and they have no interest in intellectual discourse. Number 2 on the list of things that should no longer be replied to is Pascal's wager. Why the fuck are believers still using this argument in 2026? To quickly recap what Pascal's wager is, Pascal contended that a rational person should adopt a lifestyle consistent with the existence of God and should strive to believe in God. The reasoning for his stance involves the potential outcomes. If God does not exist, the believer incurs only a finite loss, potentially sacrificing certain pleasures and luxuries. If God does exist, the believer stands to gain immeasurably. It is without a doubt one of the stupidest arguments for believing in God a person could come up with, because it's not convincing if you stop to think about it for just one fucking second. You would think that a mathematician of all people would have thought about this a little bit, but you'd be wrong. The main criticism of Pascal's wager focuses on the retort, what God do I believe in then? Because the wager is not specific to any God. Though Pascal was trying to make a case for his God, the Abrahamic God, though he would have been satisfied with a person being generally brought to theism according to his writings. There's also the problem that the argument is one big trust me bro when you die, the same thing believers do when they threaten you with an eternity in a fiery hell for not believing in their God. Every knee will bow and every tongue shall confess, yada yada yada. Threats only work on children, not adults with a functioning brain. Moreover, the argument implies that once a person accepts the wager and believes in God, even if God doesn't exist, that person is inherently happier than the non-believer over the course of their life, and that is utter bullshit. Pascal's wager is a terrible, terrible argument, and it is not worth replying to. And coming in at number 1 is, you can't prove God doesn't exist. Well, I guess we're at a stalemate because the person who says this can't prove God exists either. I'm convinced the people who say this are genuinely brain damaged. I'm not being facetious. They are either brain damaged or haven't bothered to think about the words coming out of their mouth for a split second. The problem with such a statement is even more obvious than Pascal's wager. They can't prove Odin doesn't exist and isn't stronger than God. They can't prove unicorns and fairies don't exist. They can't prove Muhammad didn't split the moon in two. They can't prove they're not brain damaged. Okay, maybe they could by analyzing the problem with unfalsifiable claims, but they don't do that. You can't prove God doesn't exist. That is such a stupid thing to say, and it's never convinced anyone that God could exist, so it's not worth replying to. I know it's hard not to exclaim in response, you're fucking mental, but that won't help anything, so why bother? And just to pad this podcast out a little bit, honorable mention, it's not worth replying to anyone who thinks the creation myth found in the Bible, in Genesis, actually happened. That person might be truly mentally ill. The person that believes that story as factual believes theirs and no other creation myth could be true, while written by a man, Moses, who wasn't there and for which no historical records exist anyway regarding his existence. When you're dealing with that kind of person, they're not worth replying to. Except, fuck, these are the people that are everywhere and even in charge of the United States government. So I guess we don't have a fucking choice but to fight back even when we don't want to. It's a never-ending battle. Is it worth fighting? I don't know. What do you think? For Noah Snark, I'm Atheist Josephina. Thank you for listening to my rant today. If you like this kind of content, please like and subscribe. Until next time, revel in reason and love the logical.